Welcome to Wellywood Wargaming, where the grim dark never sleeps. Crack open a bottle of wild snake and spark up a low stick as we take a journey down Underhive. Howdy scum, and welcome back to Wellywood Wargaming. This is the video where I give you the details of the top 10 custom Necromunda scenarios that you've submitted for this competition. I ran it through the whole of last month and I got lots and lots of feedback. Quite a few latecomers as well on the very last day of the month for the cutoff point. But yeah, I'd like to just thank everybody for submitting these. It's been a really amazing task to get through all of these. It's been quite a lot of reading, I have to say. Bruce has actually helped me pick a top 10 for these scenarios out of the 40 odd that I got sent, and they're all good. Honestly, they are all good. There wasn't a dud in there, so it was very difficult for me to pick some out of that, but I did it on a sort of scoring based sort of system. Bruce and I went through and, you know, picked them based on, sort of scored them based on the presentation, the narrative, and the actual rules and mechanics here as well. So we've picked the 10 best of the 40 that we've got so far. What I'm going to do though is I find it absolutely impossible to pick an absolute winner here. So what I'd like you to do is comment on this video, comment down below and let me know which one you'd like me, or which ones, I might even do several, you'd like me to do battle reports on. So without further ado, Bruce, should we get into it? Let's get into it. All right, so the first one is Alexander Pavlov. Thank you so much for sending me this one. This is absolutely awesome. You have gone way above and beyond what I expected anyone to do here with Craterum Sinis scenarios here. Now, what you've done here is you have given me a document that contains what looks to be, I think, 5 scenarios in here. We've got one called Rest in Peace, one called Tremors, which, if you're a fan of the movie, is very much like that. We have the Thunderdome in here as well. Again, a Mad Max reference there. Central Core Salvage and Sprouts of Terror. What he's done though is he's compiled these into a single document, which just looks fantastic. It looks straight out of the actual Necromunda rulebooks that Games Workshop publish. It is bang on. Lots of art in here, lots of illustrations. What I will do though is I'm not going to go through all 5 of the scenarios in here. I'm going to pick one of them and just go through that and see what you think of this one. And we're going to go with, I think, the Thunderdome, as I'm a huge Mad Max fan. We have got a multiplayer scenario, and I'm going to go through and sort of highlight all the key details in this scenario so you can tell me what you think about it at the end. The battle type is an Underhive battle here, and we have a regular sort of battlefield described here in the battlefield section. In terms of crews, it is, I believe, custom selection 4 to select your crew, and the rest of your crew will be set aside for reinforcements deck. So you start with custom 4 in this one. Deployment, players take turns placing their entire crew in contact with one of the battlefield edges and at least 12 inches from any enemy fighters. So I'd imagine this would be really good on a square board with 4 different players on each edge. This scenario uses the same rules for gang tactics as normal, depending on your campaign as well there, so maybe 2 random ones in here. Ending the battle, if only one gang has fighters left on the battlefield at the end of any round, the battle ends immediately. All of this so far is fairly standard. Victory, a gang is the winner if it is the only one with any fighters left on the battlefield at the end of the battle. So all fairly straightforward so far. However, this one is in the bad zone, so the battle is taking place in an especially hostile bad zone. After setting up the battlefield, players must roll a d6 to determine the environment that the scenario is taking place in. You could, at this point, use the bad zone environments cards here, or you could just roll a d6 on the table that is provided in this scenario. So on a 1, you get Toxic Downpour. On a 2, you get Lair of the Beast. On a 3, we have Gunk Tank. On a 4, we have Witch's Lair, which is probably the worst one of the bunch. That's not very nice at all. We have Static Storm on a 5, and we have Great Storm as well. So he's picked 6 different sort of environments that you can go for here, and it really does depend which one you roll for there. We then have all the conditions and special rules within this scenario. The first one is requesting assistance. So after setting up the battlefield, players take turns, starting with the player who has priority to place 7 Voxcasters. These Voxcasters can be used to ask your noble patrons for help. A Voxcaster can be represented by using suitable terrain features or simply a token. A standing and active fighter that is in base contact with a Voxcaster can make a request assistance basic action. Make an intelligence check for the fighter. If the check is failed, nothing happens. If it is passed, the controlling player may select an assistance from patron. Now, there are 3 different types of assistance here from the patron. You can have reinforcements, a weapons dump, or a weather forecast. The reinforcements, you get 1 random fighter from the reinforcements deck, arriving at the end of the following end phase. Pass an initiative test with no modifier for the arriving fighter. If the test is failed, they fall and suffer a strength 4 AP minus nothing, damage 1 hit. In this scenario, reinforcements are deployed by the controlling player anywhere that is 1 inch of the center of the battlefield and not within 1 inch of an enemy fighter. Weapons dump, place a loot casket in the center of the battlefield, then roll the scatter dice and a d6 to see where the loot casket is dropped. If a hit is rolled on the scatter dice, the loot casket remains where it is. The loot casket contains a weapon worth up to 150 credits that is chosen from the controlling player's leader's equipment list. That's pretty cool. That could be a heavy weapon. A standing and active fighter that is in base contact with the loot casket may spend a basic action to pick up this weapon. Until the end of this battle, this fighter may use the weapon he picked up. The last one is the weather forecast. What you get here is the controlling player may choose a new environment that the scenario is taking place in. So this could really suit you and really could change the flow of the game by choosing one that actually suits you a bit more, depending on what weapons and equipment you carry there as well. Each Voxcaster is designed for 1 use only. After asking patrons for help, the Voxcaster must be removed from the battlefield. We then have another special rule here, down with the sickness. At the start of the end phase of the second round and each round thereafter, the arena is narrowed by 4 inches. The cutoff area becomes a restricted zone, and any fighter who moves into the restricted zone or gets caught in the restricted zone for any reason suffers a gas hit here. So that's pretty nasty potentially. If a fighter has an item of war gear that protects them against attacks made by weapons with the gas trait, such as a respirator or filter plugs, it can be used as normal. In terms of rewards here, we have the victorious gang wins a gold-plated gun, 1 opulent jewelry item, and a digi-laser there as well. So lots of extravagant goods here. Any fighter that survived 3 rounds earns an additional 2 XP, and each gang gains 1 rep for taking part of the battle. The victorious gang gains an extra 5 reputation. So some really nice rewards there. Not too much cash though, so that's really cool. I really like this one. It's nice and simple, it's well presented, and the fact that the board gets smaller each turn I think is really, really nice. I've sort of done a similar version of this with water rising up myself each turn as well, which is another way of doing things. But the battlefield getting smaller means no one can run, no one can hide, you have to fight, and it is to the death on this one. So I do really like this one. The bad zone environments and events are something that I really like to include in my own sort of custom scenarios as well, so well done for including those here. So the next one, we have Stuart De Silva's Machine Bounty. Gangs compete in the Underhive to capture a dangerous bounty, a rogue arachne rig operator, and a set of cyber arachnids. The battlefield section here, set up your battlefield as you prefer. The more variety and levels, the better. That pretty much goes without saying for most of Necromunda. In terms of crew selection, it depends on how many multiplayer players are playing this. So if it's only 2 players, it's custom 9 and a maximum of 1,000 credits worth. If it's 3 players, it's custom 6 with a maximum of 700 credits. And if it's 4 players, it's custom 4 with a maximum of 500 credits. I like the addition of credits as a maximum there as well. That's quite a nice way of doing things. In terms of deployment, using priority order, players deploy their crews. When deploying, a player must place their leader or senior most fighter, if their leader is unavailable, within 6 inches of one of the corners of the board. They then deploy all other fighters within 6 inches of their leader, making sure that none of their fighters are within 12 inches of another crew. In terms of tactics cards, we've got if using, draw 3 and discard 1. I do like this system and way of doing things. It means that if you do get a dud, you can get rid of it and keep the good ones. Ending the battle ends when there are only representatives of one gang on the table and the arachne rig and cyber arachnids are dead, or the only models on the table are either the arachne rig or cyber arachnids. Now for the special rules. Hold your bottle. Before the arachne rig is revealed, no gang can bottle. However, once it is revealed, gangs bottle as normal. Danger Zone. The Arachni-Rig and its offspring clusters, the Cyberarachnids, are deployed as blips. Use tokens with numbers on one side to represent the blips. Write down which numbers correspond to the Arachni-Rig and to the Cyberarachnids. One blip is deployed in the center of the board, while the others are deployed in the center of each adjacent tile or board area so that they may make a continuous line, i.e. all are deployed in a line in the center row or column. Make sure to mix up the blips before deploying them. The Arachni-Rig family is treated like a gang for the purposes of priority. They get priority, roll, and act in order with the other gangs. While blips are not yet revealed, each blip moves d6 in a random direction determined by the scatter dice. If this takes the blip within range to be revealed, the blip is revealed, but the Arachni-Rig's Cyberarachnids activations end. Blips are turned over and revealed when a fighter gets within 6 inches and has line of sight. If the blip is wholly within an unlit corridor, that distance is reduced to 3 inches. Fighters equipped with infrasights or photo goggles may reveal a blip if they are within 12 inches and have line of sight, even in unlit corridors. Machine resistance. The Arachni-Rig cannot be pinned and coup de grace actions cannot be taken against it. The Arachni-Rig ignores the effects of gases and toxins. The Arachni-Rig can be lit on fire and takes damage as such, but ignores the other effects of the blaze condition due to its armor and lack of hair or clothes. The Arachni-Rig may roll a dice at the end of any activation. While affected by a blaze marker on a 4+, the blaze marker is removed. An Arachni-Rig on fire will gain the blaze trait for its attacks, even unarmed. Machine activations. Whenever the Arachni-Rig activates, it fights any fighters in base contact, or if there are no fighters in base contact, it moves or charges, if in range, towards the nearest fighter. When shooting at the Arachni-Rig, fighters do not need to make a cool check to ignore Cyberarachnids or rival fighters. The Arachni-Rig will always count as the closest target. Such is the threat. Cyberarachnids activate after the Arachni-Rig. They must also move, charge, and attack the closest enemy to them. However, if a Cyberarachnid infestation is more than 6 inches away from the Arachni-Rig at the start of the end phase, it will always attempt to move to within 3 inches of the Arachni-Rig before taking any other action. Right, in terms of the rewards now, to get the guilders to pay the bounty offered, a gang must bring proof that the Arachni-Rig is dead. If the Arachni-Rig dies during the mission, leave its model face down in place. The gang that can fight off the other gangs to claim the prize will add 150 credits to their stash. The guilders have also placed a price on the bodies of the Cyberarachnids. Unlike the Arachni-Rig though, these smaller corpses can be picked up and carried off the table using the carry simple action as described in the rulebook. If a fighter wishes, they can leave the battlefield from their corner carrying a Cyberarachnid corpse and may not return to the battle. If any Cyberarachnid corpses are left on the battlefield at the end game, the gang that claimed the Arachni-Rig's body also gets credit for these corpses. A Cyberarachnid's corpse is worth 50 credits. Experience. Each fighter that took part gains 1 experience. Each wound done to the Arachni-Rig gives you another 1 XP. Each wound done to the Arachni-Rig by a close combat attack is worth 2 XP. The fighter that deals the final blow to the Arachni-Rig gains an additional 3 XP. A fighter that takes a Cyberarachnid out of action gains 2 XP, and regular XP generators like taking enemies out of action and rallying still apply. In terms of reputation, the gang that claims the Arachni-Rig's bounty gains 3 reputation. The gang that took the Arachni-Rig out of action gets 2 reputation, and other gangs gain 1 reputation for participating in the hunt. Gangs of the bottle lose 1 rep as normal there as well. I like this scenario. I think it's going to be very, very chaotic, having Cyberarachnids climbing all over the place and spraying you with web everywhere. Cyberarachnids can be a really, really annoying little pest. They aren't that hard to kill, but if they shoot at you first with that web, they're going to be really, really annoying. And then we've got the Cyberarachnid sort of big daddy there, the Arachni-Rig. In this case, which can't be pinned or set on fire or gas or anything like that. Sure, you can take it out with a well-aimed melter blast, but it's going to shoot you off the table with its guns and be really good in close combat too. Not to mention these things can all clamber and move over terrain and just be a nuisance in general. I think this is a really nice scenario, so well done for that one. In at number 3, we have Warren Gifford and his egg hunt. This one revolves around the Ripperjacks in Necromunda. Ripperjacks are a really cool greebly that you get in Necromunda, and we don't get to see them too much, so I like the fact that you've used them in this scenario as the main sort of focus. So really nicely presented this one as well. This is a gang raid scenario. A gang attempts to curry favor with the local beast wrangler by stealing Ripperjack eggs before before they hatch. The trouble is, they aren't the only ones the Beast Wrangler offered the deal. The battle type here, the game is intended as an out-of-cycle game for a gang that needs an extra game to keep on a Dominion campaign. It assumes you have access to the Forge World Ripperjacks and Beastmaster miniatures. Attacker and defender pretty standard there and fairly even. It's a roll-off on that one. The battlefield is 2x2 Sector Mechanicus terrain. Ripperjacks lay eggs as far from possible from underhive meddlers, laying eggs at high points and ambushing interlopers from above. Terrain should be placed such that the center of the table is the highest point. Here, a suitable nest terrain feature or token should be placed. In terms of crews here, we've got hybrid selection D3+2 there and gang tactics custom 2. Deployment is as standard and ending the battle if a gang's fighter begins their activation on the table edge while within 2 inches of Ripperjack eggs and not engaged. If either gang or the gang attempting to capture the Ripperjack eggs has no models left on the battlefield, the game is over. Victory, a gang that manages to snatch Ripperjack eggs is victorious. In terms of the rewards here, the Beast Wrangler owes you one. The gang may use the ability of an underhive trader or any kind once as a favour. Once the favour is done, the Beast Wrangler considers the favour paid back. In terms of reputation, all gangers that take part in the battle gain 1 XP. A fighter who leaves their table edge with the eggs gains 1 XP. And if the gang is victorious, their gang leader, despite not being on the battlefield, gains 1 XP. In terms of reputation, if the gang is victorious, they gain D3 rep as well. Otherwise, they lose 1 reputation. Special rules now. Got the drop. The attacking gang is considered to have found the roost faster than the defending gang, which may have been trailing them. For the first round of the game, the defending gang's fighters may only make 1 action during their activation and may not perform double actions. We then have maternal instinct. Ripperjacks may be cold-blooded, but they have a maternal instinct and protect their hatchlings fearsomely. Xenologists estimate Ripperjack intelligence to be on par with Terran Corvidae family of avians immortalized in the 19th Legion. If a ganger is within 6 inches of the Ripperjack eggs at the beginning of a round, roll 1d6. On a roll of 4 to 5, deploy a Ripperjack within 12 inches of the ganger on the highest point possible. On a roll of 6, place 2 Ripperjacks within 6 inches of the ganger. Once 2 Ripperjacks have entered the battlefield, Ripperjacks are no longer spawned. Ripperjacks are activated in the beginning of each round and always attempt to move within charge range of the nearest ganger within 6 inches of their eggs. If within charge range, they attempt to charge. Egg harvesting. Basic action. Gangers may make a willpower test to harvest Ripperjack eggs. If this test is failed, they lose any remaining actions. If passed, they may place an egg token within 2 inches of themselves. Eggs may be moved in the same manner as a loot casket. There's a few pictures here and a little note at the end that says arbitrating. If this game is being played against an arbitrator and not another gang in the campaign, get creative. There could be enforcers guarding the roost or tasked with clearing the hive. A Venator gang of Kroot led by a Shaper seeks to eat the Ripperjacks and incorporate their genes into their kindred. This is a really nice one, and you don't have to use Ripperjacks either. I just like the fact that Ripperjacks have been included here. You could use giant rats, you could use wolf spiders or something similar that exists within Necromunda, or even, sump crocs or something terrifying like that. So this is a really nice one, nice and fluffy, so thank you for sending this one in. Oscar Lundberg, you provided me with a scenario here that I thought was for Mordheim, but actually it is a semi-Mordheim Necromunda crossover in the lure of Warpstone. Very, very nicely presented, I might add, with all these illustrations and stuff. And yeah, as soon as you said Warpstone, you kind of had me here. The pickaxe bit into the rock, a rhythmic thud echoing through the cavern. Another day, another cycle. The dim, damp expanse stretched out before me, a labyrinth of shadows. I'd been here 1,000 times, yet it still felt foreign. A place apart from the rest of the Hive City. They called me Pepe the Hook. A moniker earned not for any particular skill or injury, but for the tenacity that marked me. And then you've got, I'm not going to read the whole lore out, but it's really, really good. We've then got a picture of what appears to be a Chaos Spawn with some Warpstone down below here as well. Let's check out the actual scenario now, though. Standard battlefield and crews are custom D3+3 here. Tactics cards, custom 2, and deployment is standard here as well. In terms of the Warpstone in question, though, at the beginning of the battle, place 3 Warpstones in the center of the battlefield. Then each player places 1 Warpstone each each, within 8 to 12 inches from the center of the battlefield on the opponent's side. In terms of gang tactics here, when playing a gang tactics card, the player rolls a d6. On a 4+, the gang tactic takes effect as normal, otherwise it has no effect and is discarded, and the player randomly generates another gang tactic to replace it. This represents the warping nature of this scenario, I suppose. We've then got mining the Warpstone. So any fighter within 1 inch of a Warpstone can make a harvest basic action or a harvest double action. Roll a d6 and apply the table, adding 1 if it's a double action. So on a 1, the Warpstone explodes due to its volatility. Resolve a blast 3 gas attack on the Warpstone. Pretty nasty, that one. On a 2 to 5, we've got gain 1 Warpstone token, and on a 6, gain 2 Warpstone tokens here. After a harvest action has been made, the Warpstone is depleted and removed from the battlefield. A fighter can carry 2 units of Warpstone tokens. If a fighter goes out of action, place the Warpstone tokens carried by that fighter on the battlefield. Any fighter within 1 inch may pick up the tokens as a free action. We then have the Guardian. Something's stalking the Underhive, and there are signs of claw marks all over the place. The Chaos Spawn does not start on the battlefield, but appears after a fighter is injured. Whenever a fighter in any gang suffers a flesh wound or seriously injured or taken out of action, after resolving the effects of the injury dice, the player whose fighter was injured rolls a d6. If the result is a 5+, then the Chaos Spawn appears. Each additional time the roll is made in the same round, add 1 to the result. Once the Chaos Spawn has appeared, do not roll for it again to appear. The injured fighter's gang can place the Chaos Spawn anywhere in base-to-base contact with the injured fighter, or where the fighter was if taken out of action. It then immediately takes an action. And the actions are as follows. We've got in order of priority here. On a 1, the fighter in base-to-base contact, it makes a fight action. Closest fighter within 9 inches, it makes a charge action. Closest fighter within 12 inches, it makes a move simple. If no fighters are within line of sight, it moves and stands at the nearest Warpstone deposit. And 4, no fighters within 12 inches, it moves and stands to the nearest Warpstone deposit. If it has additional actions left, it heals a wound. During the priority phase, the Chaos Spawn rolls for priority and then activates once each round, along with the other gangs. Ending the battle, if either gang has no fighters left on the battlefield at the end of the round and no Chaos Spawn remains and the battle ends. If one gang has no fighters left but a Chaos Spawn is present, the remaining gang may choose to stay and fight the Chaos Spawn, otherwise the battle ends immediately. The gang with the most Warpstone markers at the end of the battle is the winner, otherwise the game is a draw. Each gang adds 30 credits to their stats for each Warpstone marker they claimed. A fighter that mined at least 1 Warpstone receives an additional 1 XP. The fighter that killed the Chaos Spawn receives 2 additional XP. In terms of reputation here, each gang that took part gains 1 reputation, and if a gang successfully killed the Chaos Spawn and won the scenario, they gain an additional 3 reputation here as well. This is a really nice one, so thank you for sending me this one. It's similar to the Egg Hunt here, except instead of Ripperjacks, you've got a Chaos Spawn. Chaos Spawn you roll for randomly on the stats, so this could be horrific or it could be a bit of a flop, you never know. They're really hard to deal with though, but I love the injection of a little bit of Mordheim into the Necromunda setting there, so well done on this one. Next we've got Train Heist by Daniel Kovacevic, if I'm saying that right there. This one, in the scenario, gangs attempt to raid a stationary mouse train operated freight train, trying to claim its riches before it can refuel and depart. A real Wild West one, this one. Battle type is Ash Wastes battle, so vehicles and war gear that grant the mounted condition can be included in this one. The battlefield uses the standard rules for setting up the battlefield as well. In terms of the crews here, all gangs use the random selection 5 method to determine their crew. Note, unlike most Underhell's campaign scenarios, Abyssal Ferryman team members are not automatically included following the choose crew step of pre-battle sequence. Instead, they may be included in the random selection 5 method as outlined above. In terms of deployment, starting with the winner of a roll-off, each player takes it in turns to deploy a model on the battlefield. Each model must be placed at least 9 inches away from any battlefield edge and 6 inches from any other model, both friend and foe. In terms of gang tactics, this scenario uses the standard rules for gang tactics, etc. Ending the battle ends when the freight train exits the battlefield or if only one gang has models left on the battlefield at the end of any round. The gang with the most cargo points at the end of the battle is the winner. If 2 or more gangs have the same number of cargo points, then the battle is a draw. Rewards, exploration points. The victorious gang gains 2 exploration points. Any losing or drawing gangs gain 1 exploration point. If any gang had at least 3 models escape the battlefield with cargo, they gain an additional 1 exploration point. It's worth noting here that exploration points are used in an Underhell's campaign. So if you're not familiar with that, that is for the Underhells campaign there. Experience. Any model that successfully escapes the battlefield with cargo gets an extra D3 experience, and rep here, the victorious gang gets D3 rep as well. Then we have all of these special rules. The first one here is armed robbery. All gangs are trying to loot what they can from a stationary freight train before it departs the remote refueling station. Place a large vehicle in the center of the battlefield. A train is perfect for this, facing directly towards the battlefield edge. Place a large structure representing the refueling station alongside the freight train. The freight train cannot be targeted by attacks or moved from its position by the players. Any fighter within 1 inch of the freight train can make the loot cargo basic action. Make an intelligence check for this fighter. If it's passed, place a cargo token next to the fighter. Any fighter within 1 inch of a cargo token may make a move simple action carrying the cargo token with them. When the action ends, the cargo token is placed in base contact with this fighter. Next we have departure. Recognizing they are under attack, the Malstrain crew are trying to last until the freight train is refueled before making escape. At the end of the third round and every round thereafter, the player with priority rolls a d6 and adds the round number to see if the freight train has refueled. On a 9 or higher, the freight train has refueled and departs, and the gangs begin to scatter. At the end of each round's end phase, move the freight train 8 inches towards the facing battlefield edge. It should take the freight train no more than 2 turns to reach the battlefield edge and depart the battlefield. The track going through the center of the battlefield is a clear way, and so no terrain can ever be placed on it. In desperate need of resources, the gangs have agreed to temporary truce in order to increase their chances of successfully raiding the freight train. For the duration of the battle, players may choose to ignore rival fighters when assessing target priority when making a ranged attack, while bottle checks trigger as usual. Players roll a d3 rather than a d6. After the battlefield has been set up, starting with the winner of a roll-off, each player takes it in turns to place 6 exit points on the battlefield edge. Each exit point must be placed at least 9 inches away from any other exit point. The exit points are then each assigned a number from 1 to 6. Escaping the battlefield. If you finish within 1 inch of an exit, then you escape the battlefield. If the fighter is in base contact with a cargo token, remove the cargo token, increase their gang's cargo by 1 as well. So that's how you get them off the battlefield. We then got roaming horrors as well. D3 plus 1 brood scum and 1 brood scum leader and 1 gene stealer, by the way, for every gang participating in the battle. Starting with the winner of a roll-off, each player takes it in turns to place them as close to the freight train and refueling station as possible. So lots and lots of greeblies in this one as well. And there's a little bit on fleeing the battlefield here as well. If any gang voluntarily bottles out, subsequently flees the battlefield, they automatically lose this scenario as well. A really cool Wild West type scenario here. It's a countdown to get as much cargo as you can. I like the unlikely alliance that you've thrown in here, as well as the exploration points for Underhells campaigns as well. So well done on this one. The next one is from the legend that is Belly, so shout out to Belly. This one is Seven Scummers. This is a take on Seven Samurai. If you haven't seen Seven Samurai, it is one of the best films ever made. I'm a huge fan of Kurosawa. I've seen every single Kurosawa film, the black and white ones, the color ones, you name it, they're all amazing. So if you like that kind of stuff, then this one is for you. In this scenario, a ragtag band of Underhive mercenaries finds themselves enlisted in the defense of a small settlement of hopeless hive dwellers from a horde of ferocious bandits. Battlefield for this one is 3x3. In the middle of the battlefield, there should be a collection of buildings to represent the settlement. It can include elevated areas, gates, and other fortifications. This is single player or multiplayer, and it is custom 7 on the starting crew. It must contain more gangers than Hierarchy X models. If multiplayer, players must decide how to divide the crew. Tactics cast here is custom 2 or 2 each for multiplayer. The deployment here, the gang with priority starts each step, crew within 12 inches of the center of the board, and D3 plus 2 bandits within 1 inch of any battlefield edge. We then have the special rules for the bandits here, the raiding party. As the battle progresses, more and more bandits join the fray. They are activated at the start of the end phase, starting with the player with priority. Before moving the bandits, take turns placing D3 plus 2 bandits, starting with the player with priority, within 1 inch of any battlefield edge, not within 1 inch of another fighter. Newly arrived bandits cannot activate this round. The bandit leader arrives at the end of round 3, and the bandit leader's stats are as follows. Movement 5, weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+, strength, toughness 3, 3 wounds, initiative 4, 3 attacks, and 5+, 5+, 6+, 7+ on the mental stats. Mesh armor plus any combination of weapons, no restrictions. Fearsome, true grit, and nerves of steel. So some nasty skills there as well. The bandit leader's a bit of a badass. And then we have bandit hive scum as well. And they basically have exactly the same stats as a regular hive scum. And they come with stub guns, fighting knives, or auto pistols and clubs or mauls, or whatever you like. Personally, I'd just go WYSIWYG with whatever's on your scum models, to be honest. Simple-minded, the bandits will move towards the settlement, shoot the nearest closest enemy model and charge the closest enemy model. Not that stupid. Bandits will make use of cover where available and disloyal as well. The bandits that fail a nerve test will automatically flee the battlefield. Special rule number 2 here, the hive dwellers. Not everyone is cowering behind a bucket of sump slop. The defending gang can add D3 hive scum, not D3 each, to their starting crew, equipped with a 30 credits of war gear and weapons from the hive scum equipment list. The battle ends when at least one of the following is true, the end of round 7, or no gangs remain on the battlefield. Credits, you get D3 times 5 to any gang that's still on the battlefield at the end. The mercenaries were duped. And experience plus D3 if on the battlefield at the end, +1 for taking part, +1 for rallying, +1 for seriously injuring an enemy, +2 for taking an enemy out of action, +1 for taking an enemy leader champion out of action, and +1 for killing an enemy during the battle. +3 rep to any gang still on the battlefield at the end as well. So lots and lots of experience in this one, but not many credits. This is exactly what I like. I keep saying this. Experience should be so much more important than credits. There should be more emphasis on this. So well done on this one, Belly. There's also a little designer's note at the bottom here. This scenario is inspired by the movies Seven Samurai and The Magnificent Seven, as well as the Necromunda scenario Meat, if you've played that one. It can be played as part of a larger campaign for experience grinding or as a one-off. Starting crews can be made up of players' gangs, bounty hunters, or whatever you think will be the most fun. I can see a lot of narrative in this one. It's really simple, but it's really effective. It is similar to the Meat scenario, but I definitely prefer this one actually because I think the cannibals in Meat and the crew size is a little bit off, and I've always adjusted that one myself as well. So this is a really nice solution. Hive scum, everybody knows the stats of a hive scum. They don't have any skills. If they break, they're gone. This keeps it really simple. They're all armed with very similar weapons, and it's going to be hard to survive this one, certainly for 7 rounds, because hive scum have average stats and stuff. But I really like this one. I'd like to play it out actually. So I think this is probably going to be one of the favorites in here. But let me know what you think in the comments. The next one's from Simon Church, and this is particularly awesome. This is a solo campaign, so you can play this completely on your own, and actually, honestly, by reading it, it looks like a really fun thing to do. It's almost like Warhammer Quest crossed with Necromunda, this one. Treasure Tunnels of Terror solo campaign. So the background here is treasures and riches are to be found in the devastated city of Hive Secundus. However, the path to get there is a treacherous one. Ambitious and brave gangs can attempt to reach the sealed off riches of Secundus, the rewards as well as the danger increasing exponentially the closer they get to the hive itself. So this is all about that journey of one gang into Hive Secundus before they get there. Battle type, the solo campaign is played using Zone Mortalis rules, so vehicles and war gear that grant the mounted condition cannot be used. The solo campaign is played using the Bad Zone Delta tiles. Gangs start on a single Bad Zone tile and advance through the tunnels towards the hive. There are 60 tiles from here to the dust wall of Hive Secundus. When a gang member is within 4 inches of the leading edge, a random tile is placed adjacent to the leading edge. This represents the gang exploring the tunnels when the tile is placed. Make a loot check to identify how many loot caskets are placed. Pitch black rules, 6 inches are in force as well, and the crew size is custom X as well, so you can have your entire crew in this one. Now, if you don't know what Bad Zone Delta tiles are, they are an expansion on the original Zone Mortalis N17 tile set, which I think is fantastic and a really nice and unique way to switch up the 3D play of Necromunda and actually use a 2D format. It's really, really good, honestly. I actually really like playing on the tiles, and the way that he's doing it here is, laying a new tile each turn is like playing Warhammer Quest or Hero Quest there as well. So really, really love this idea. And it basically expands on the solo sort of Underhells campaign that you get in the Hive Secundus box set as well. So this just takes it a lot further, fleshes it out, and makes it more interesting than what you get in the box. When a new tile is placed, roll a D3 and apply the modifiers below to see how many loot caskets are placed on the tile. The further you go, I think the more loot caskets you get. And they're randomly placed on here as well. And then we have When they're opened on a 1, there is nothing in there, but you have to roll a beast check. On a 2 to 5, loose change, so 5 credits has been found. And on a 6, the gang has found some loot. And then we have a loot table as well in here. You can exchange loot tokens as you go for different items, and then he's got a sort of card system based on the different suits. So hearts are pistols, basic weapons and close combat weapons. Diamonds are special heavy and grenades, and then we've got spades for armor, field armor, gang equipment and chems, and clubs in here is personal equipment as well. The next thing is the beast check here. When required to make a beast check, roll a d6 and apply the modifiers below. Compare the final result to the table on the next page to determine if any beasts arrive. The table can be modified based on models you have available. So the way that each game is split up in those 60 tiles, for every 10th tile you can have a rest stop, and that's where you do your post-battle actions and stuff, which is a really cool way of doing things. Seriously injured fighters and out-of-action fighters, this is pretty cool here. There is no help or assistance in the tunnels. Any friendly fighters left with serious injuries or out of action are likely to be picked off by a number of beasts. When a fighter is declared out of action, do not remove the model, instead leave it face down. Out of action fighters do not get an activation marker. Any fighter that is seriously injured or out of action that does not make it to the rest stop is removed with all their equipment from the gang roster. Very brutal, this one. Other friendly fighters can provide assistance by conducting the following action. The fireman's lift, double action. A fighter within 2 inches of a seriously injured fighter or out of action can carry that fighter D3 inches. Then at the end of this campaign, at tile 60, we have the gang on the edges of Hive Secundus. If other gangs are taking part in this solo campaign, they can join forces to undertake the Dominion campaign using the gang and equipment that reached Secundus. Alternatively, the gangs could join forces and push deeper into the Hive together. The arbitrator could choose a meat-style mission with a gene stealer cult patriarch sitting on a mountain of treasure protected by gene stealers instead of plague zombies. Alternatively, the gang could return to the dust wall, ignoring loot and placing beasts on the trailing edge rather than the leading edge. This one's really, really awesome. I love the fact that it's a solo campaign as well. This gives people an option who don't have lots and lots of mates and buddies to play with to play. So this one's really cool. Games Workshop should sort of take a leaf out of this book actually and do a really good series of solo play scenarios for Necromunda, because really there's only the Hive Secundus one that you get in the box there. This one's a nice expansion on that. The next one is Nicholas Hill. You sent me the Archotech facility. Gangs hunt for forgotten loot in a particularly collapsed multi-level research facility. Fighters may only move between levels via winding access tunnels, and some of the former test subjects have taken up residence. So this is really interesting with the battlefield setup and the mechanics in this one. I really, really like this one, by the way. Firstly, we have tunnel warfare. So we have 3 separate 12-inch by 24-inch areas designated as levels 1, 2, and 3. Then we have Zone Mortalis, so 3 separate 1 tile by 2 tile areas designed as levels 1, 2, 3 as well. Place a tunnel marker 40mm recommended in the center of each level. Levels are considered entirely separate from each other, and fighters on different levels cannot interact in any way or draw line of sight to each other. The defender may not lock any doors. Take turns placing MGFN caches until there are 2 on level 1, 2 on level 2, and 2 on level 3. MGFN caches must be placed 6 inches away from the short battlefield edges and 3 inches away from other caches. Lastly, take turns placing 1 beast lair anywhere on level 2 and 1 beast lair anywhere on level 3 as well. Crews are hybrid 2+4, and tactics cards are custom 2 here as well. In terms of deployment, the defender selects a short battlefield edge on level 1 and the attacker takes the opposite edge. Starting with the defender, alternate placing models within 2 inch of a gang's edge. Fighters with the infiltrate skill deploy normally but may make a free move simple action at the start of round 1 before rolling for priority. Special rule here is Tunnel Labyrinth, and I absolutely love this one. The different levels are connected through winding access tunnels, and fighters can easily be turned around. When a fighter moves into base contact with a tunnel marker, immediately remove them from the battlefield. They do not count as having gone out of action, and they do not have to test for fleeing if the gang has bottled. At the end of the end phase, starting with the gang that had priority, alternate rolling for each ganger that was removed this way. On a 1, the fighter is lost in the tunnels and does not get deployed next round, pass an intelligence check or gain the insanity condition when next deployed. Number 2, they come back on the same level. 3 to 5, they come back on 1 level below. and on a 6 they come back 2 levels below. Really, really cool, this one. I've done a similar thing with sort of teleportals in one of my custom scenarios, and I really love the sort of randomness of that. Obviously, if you roll a 1, it's not very nice with Insanity, but you've got to have some, salty and sweet in there. When deployed on a new level, randomize a short edge and deploy touching that edge at least 1 inch away from an enemy model. If there is no room to deploy, move models the minimum distance possible to allow deployment. If a fighter goes into the tunnels while seriously injured or broken, roll recovery in the end phase. Looting the caches here. A standing fighter within 1 inch of a cache can make a loot double action. Remove the cache and roll on the table below with no modifiers. Caches can be removed with the carry loot casket simple action as well. On a 1, it's a melter trap. Oof. On a 2, it's empty. On a 3 to 4, it's D3 times 10 credits. And a 5 to 6, it's D6 times 10 credits. Fleeing the battlefield. If a gang voluntarily flees, their opponent may immediately loot all remaining caches for free. Ending the battle ends at the end of the round if any caches are looted or only one gang has fighters remaining on the battlefield. Victory. The gang that looted the most caches wins. If gangs open the same number, then they tie. The rewards here are no credits, so you just get credits for the actual contents of the caches here, but you get 1 XP for performing the loot action and 1 XP for being on the battlefield or in the tunnels at the end of the battle. The winner receives D3 rep, and if a gang bottles out, they lose 1 rep. So really nice and simple, this one. I do like it a lot. This one's really awesome. I love the mechanics of the tunnels and the randomness of the different areas. I actually really like the idea of having several different boards almost to play on and go between in a game as well, particularly in a multiplayer. Now, one thing that was not included in this is there was a mention of sort of greeblies a little bit at the beginning, so I would like to see some official test subjects mentioned in here as well. We haven't got anything in here officially, but you could stick some plague zombies in there or some little greeblies just to make things more interesting as well. But that is a fantastic scenario, so well done for that one. Thomas Wilson submitted a scenario here called Press Gang, which is particularly good as well. We've got some really cool sort of lore at the beginning here as well. Now, don't damage the goods. You've got to use your head. A little light persuasion. I mean, a life in the Navy can't be worse than down here, can it? Failing that, a quick smack on the head will do the trick nicely. Just don't damage the goods. That was Ajax Shale, arms master of the Cobalt crew in Rust Falls. In this scenario, one gang attempts to recruit volunteers from another settlement to serve in the Imperial Navy, whilst the other attempts to stop them from doing so. A really nice thematic one, this one. In this scenario, one gang is the attacker and one is the defender. If this scenario is being played as part of a campaign, then the gang that issued the challenge is the attacker. Otherwise, roll off. The battle type is Underhive as well, and the battlefield is the standard battlefield rules here as well. The attacker uses custom D3+2 selection method here, though they may not include their leader and may only include one champion. The defender uses the hybrid D3+3 selection method. They may not include their leader. In terms of deployment, the defender sets up their crew within 9 inches of a board edge, and the attacker deploys no more than 3 inches of the opposite edge. D6+6 hive dwellers are set up on the board. The two players place the hive dwellers in turn, keeping them at least 3 inches apart from each other, with the winner of a roll-off going first. No hive dweller can be set up within 9 inches of the defender or attacker's board edges. If either gang has no fighters left on the battlefield at the end of any round, the battle ends immediately. And if one gang has secured more hive dwellers than the other at the end of the battle, they are victorious. If both gangs have secured the same number of hive dwellers, then it is a draw. Out of action or seriously injured hive dwellers count for neither side. The attacker gains D3 times 5 credits for each hive dweller they secure, and the defender gains D3 times 5 credits for each hive dweller they help escape. In terms of experience, the attacker's champion gains 1 XP if their gang wins. The defender's leader gains 1 XP if they win. Attacking fighters gain 1 XP for each hive dweller they persuade as well. No XP is awarded for hive dwellers going out of action seriously injured at any point, so you don't get anything for hurting them. And reputation, the winning gang gains 3 rep as well. Now for the new recruit special rule, if at the end of the battle a gang has secured at least 2 hive dwellers, they may choose to roll a 2d6, adding 1 to the dice roll for each hive dweller secured. If the roll is 10 or more, the gang may add a free juve to their gang as they divert a hive dweller into their gang. If they roll 2 6s, they may add a free ganger instead. In addition, if the attacker rolls a 2 before modifiers, the naval recruiters have press ganged one of their own fighters. They must delete one of their fighters from the battle. The fighters' weapons and war gear are lost. That one's harsh. Home turf advantage here as well. The defender has the home turf advantage rule here too. And the hive dwellers have the following stats. So they are move 5, weapon skill, ballistic skill 5, strength toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 4, and attacks 1 as well with 8, 8, 8, 8 on the mental stats. So like a scummer, but just a bit worse with weapon skill and ballistic skill there. All hive dwellers are armed with a maul or a club, and when all the attackers and defenders have been activated in a round and before the end phase, hive dwellers perform one of the following actions. If they're standing and engaged, they may make a fight basic action. No reactions attacks are possible as the attackers don't want to risk injuring the hive dweller. If they are standing and active, they may make a d3 plus 5 seeking cover double action, treating the attackers as enemy fighters, and if they are prone and pinned, they stand up and make a d6-inch seeking cover double action as well. If they're prone and seriously injured, they make a d3 seeking cover double action too. In all cases, they must attempt to end their move in order of priority, so that they are out of line of sight of enemy models, they are in partial or full cover, so that they are close to a defender as possible and as far from any enemy models as possible. So here's how you secure the hive dwellers. An attacker may attempt to press a hive dweller in 2 ways. Any attacking fighter within 2 inches of a hive dweller may attempt to do the following action. You can cajole, which is a double action. Make an intelligence test for this fighter, subtracting 1 for the dice roll for each hive dweller that's seriously injured or out of action, and 1 from the dice roll for each defender within 6 inches. If it's passed, they've convinced the hive dweller to join up. Or you can do the doink as well. So this is kind of similar to either opening or bypassing a loot casket or smashing a loot casket. There's risk to this. So you can do a doink, which is an attack or a charge, but you're in danger of, damaging the goods or hurting them or even killing them as well. So it's better to do the cajole, but it's easier to do the doink. So this is quite a nice little trade-off here. And then we have escaping the press here as well. So a defending fighter can assist a hive dweller escaping by making the following actions. Escort double. Any fighter within 2 inches of a hive dweller can escort them in a direction equal to the defender's movement characteristic. All normal restrictions for movement apply. A defender can escort up to 2 hive dwellers in this manner at a time. The defender can make 1 free shoot basic action as part of this movement with an additional -1 to hit modifier as a sort of covering fire. But you can also do over here, which is you shouting for them to come over. The fighter makes a leadership check. If passed, 1 hive dweller within 9 inches of the fighter moves d3 plus 5 closer to this fighter. So 2 different ways of escaping the press as well. I really like this one. The attacker and defender have 2 very different jobs to do with all these hive dwellers. And the fact that you've got 2 different ways of cajoling them, doinking them, escorting them, and over here, really cool, this one. And very thematic and fluffy as well. The next one is from James Dudley. I believe that's how it's pronounced. This is a gang raid scenario called the Duel. It's very, very simple and just really good. I really, really like this one. This stood out as one of my favorites, actually, just because of its simplicity and it's slightly different to anything else we've seen before. So I really do like this one. It's a gang raid scenario, so it's smaller scale as well. 2 gangs have found a stash of good scrap, opting for a duel in the oldest traditions. Winner claiming the prize. The battle type is an underhive battle, so no vehicles or anything. It's a 2x2 foot square, set up terrain by mutually agreeable manner. Place a loot casket in the center of the battlefield and no other terrain within 4 inches of it. This casket cannot be opened during the battle. Both gangs use the custom selection 5 method to choose their crew and nominate one of their fighters to be their duelist. The rest are spectators. In terms of deployment, players alternate deploying fighters, roll off to determine who goes first. The duelist must be placed first and within 2 inches of the loot casket, but not within 3 inches of each other. All other models must be placed anywhere on the battlefield at least 6 inches from enemy fighters. No gang tactics are used in this scenario. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Each player may choose one of the following rules as well as a second if they pass a leadership test with their duelist. If one of the duelists has a cost of 100 or more than the other, the player controlling the lower cost duelist may select an additional rule from this list. Duelists cannot use heavy or special weapons. We have duelists may only use close combat weapons. Duelists cannot use chems. Duelists are dosed with friends on. Duelists' exotic beasts are not deployed. Duelists can't use armor or field saves. And lastly, duelists must consume 3 swigs of second best before the battle. That's absolutely my favorite one there. The friends-on and second best are free for this scenario if chosen for the above rules. If dishonor is chosen, these restrictions are lifted. We'll talk about dishonor in a second. Now for the spectators. Spectators may only make a single action each round, and it cannot be fight, shoot, or any action that directly harms enemy models. They cannot interact with the loot casket either, but if dishonor is chosen, these restrictions are lifted. Now for the duelists. The duelists cannot be targeted or affected by abilities or weapons of any model other than the opposing duelists. Duelists cannot move more than 6 inches away from each other and will not flee the battlefield. They ignore all injury dice results except the skull on the injury dice there. And again, if dishonor is chosen, these restrictions are entirely lifted. Ending the battle. In the end phase, if only one duelist is on the battlefield, both players must place one hand behind their back and reveal either honor, thumbs up, or dishonor, thumbs down, at the same time. The battle ends unless one of the players chose dishonor, in which case it ends when only one gang has fighters left on the battlefield. This is such a great, simple idea. I absolutely love it. If both players declared honor, the gang whose duelist is not out of action is the winner. If either player declared dishonor, the winner is the gang with models remaining on the battlefield. In terms of rewards here, if both players chose honor, the victorious gang receives d6 times 10 credits and the losing gang receives 1d6 times 5 credits as a consolation for being honorable in defeat. If dishonor is chosen by either player, the winner gets d6 times 10 credits as well as 1d3 times 10 credits as well. Experience the victorious gang duelist gains d3 XP. If dishonor is chosen by either player, each spectator who took part in the battle also earns 1 XP as well. D3 rep for the victorious gang, and the gang whose duelist lost gains d3 reputation if it did not declare dishonor. The gang that declares dishonor loses d3 rep. This is so simple, but so good. I have to say, it's probably my favorite one in here just for the simplicity, and I can just imagine playing this one out and it being very different each time. There's politics in here, there's classic, it's just classic Necromunda, and I really love this one, so thank you for sending me this. So there you have it, 10 of the most awesome custom Necromunda community scenarios. That was a lot to chew through. I'm now losing my voice actually after talking so much, so I do apologize. This is a long one, but I had to put 10 in there because I got around 40, and those are all, I think you'll agree, really awesome. So what I'd like you to do now, as well as like, sharing, subscribing and all of that stuff, is comment down below and let me know which of these scenarios you'd like me to play and do a battle report on as well, which are worthy of some real attention in doing a battle report. Also, what I will do as well is put all of them, including the ones that you sent me that didn't make it to the top 10, as a thank you. I'll put these on the Facebook group as well, the Wellywood Wargaming Facebook group, so go and join that if you haven't already. I'll put these in the files section. Again, if anyone has a problem with me putting these in there, then please do let me know via email. I can't imagine any of you would though, because it's just sharing them further with the community. But yeah, so all of you can use these at home in your games of Necromunda as well. Anyway, I'll be back with another video real soon, and hopefully a battle report on one of these as well. Peace out.